Greetings and welcome back, everyone, to Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I am Garrett Weinzierl. Sitting across the internet from me is none other than Kyle Fergusson. How are you today, Mr. Ferg?
I'm doing well. I'm doing fabulous. I had a fascinating, bizarre week of Heroes of the Storm.
Ooh, nice. A fascinating, bizarre week.
Yes.
Fascinating, bizarre week. I had a weird week.
Oh?
I had a week where I feel like I flew too close to the sun and had to come back down to Earth. Which was, of course, this lovely gentleman by the name of Kyle asked me to fill in on solo lane for his 5-stack team. And now everything else just seems a little gray.
Yeah. I can definitely understand that. I can certainly understand that from the solo lane perspective. It's one thing to be like a hot dog and assassin out there. Ooh, coordinated play. Oh, stun for me. And then you go into solo league and like, I get picks in the back line and no one's helping these people out. I'm a badass. But I totally get you. The structure, the lack of ganks, perhaps, knowing that if you have 3 people in your lane, good things are happening elsewhere. All that stuff must be hard to hang up.
It is, man. I'll tell you, as someone who went through it, at least for me, little difficult. Didn't help that the first game back was the first time in probably over a year that I've heard someone blame the team because they were caught out.
Okay, what form did this take? A lack of pings? No one called missing? What?
Just feels like I have no team.
And
we're all looking at this person on a hero that typically solo lanes going, it's kind of your job. The rest of the team were lovely. We were all like, oh, this is a rough game, y'all. Like, this was just like a warm-up game and quick match, but it was like, coming back down after, playing with all y'all. And it was just like, man, I haven't heard this lousy excuse in a long time. And it's just this like black and white reminder of, shoot, this is what pickup games can be sometimes.
Interesting. I always wonder if that's, returning or new players, because I have also seen a great increase in the amount of people saying call missing, this pathing is bad, random stuff like that. That to me immediately says, where have you been? This is Heroes of the Storm.
You must be
Our
new
maps
here.
are small. Yeah. We're not going to help you because it's a team fighty game.
Now that we're deconstructing this, what I haven't seen in a while that I used to see a lot was I'm new, or this is my first game back after 6 months. Like kind of the pre-apology, which I used to see a lot of, and now I can't think of the last time I actually saw it.
I wonder if it's kind of an expansion structure sort of thing, like these events, these excitements permeate our community. We're on the Blizzard launcher after all. People come back, WoW's, and it's just in the end of slump. There's no announcement yet. People maybe are trying to get their things done that they plan to do before the expansion's over. But with expansions and WoW, like, I never apologize. And I'm like, hey, haven't played in 2 years. Like, no, everyone doesn't know what's going on. Or there's that guy who's running ahead who's done this like twice, and for some reason he's already impatient, but that person's crazy and just needs to learn to cool down a little bit. But maybe it's just they ebb and flow, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like much earlier this year, which feels like 5 years ago, I got a hair to go tanking in WoW again, and I was warning people. I was like, hey, it's been a while. I don't remember all the fights. Just bear with me. If for no other reason than if like I was met with some pushback, I kind of knew how I had to play. It's like, this DPS is just going to chain pull regardless because they're impatient for me. At least I know to like be on my toes. So it wasn't so much as for me, I don't use it as a pre-apology. I use it more to kind of like take a temperature if I'm personally getting back to something.
Sure.
So, like, can I take my time, or do I just need to be prepared to just make it work at a moment's notice?
The weird thing for me right now is I'm continuing to be tank and shot caller for my team.
Cool.
So I'm very invested in tanks in solo queue because it's a good opportunity to practice those sort of things.
Which I gotta say, man, I think you're there. It's been a really long time, but I distinctly remember a time where you were. Would it be fair to say uncomfortable telling people what to do?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't want to like put words in your mouth, but I distinctly remember a time where you were aggressive about the fact that you didn't want to tell people what to do. And I think you've come a long way. I think you're a really good shot caller, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, I really enjoyed having you in my ear.
Well, we're friends. And that's made a really big difference. I've realized it's kind of a DMing thing. Like, when I dungeon master, I want you to be invested in me. Like, not be thinking about that other game you played or this other DM you play with and tell me about them. Like, it's a very personal thing, dungeon mastering and shot calling. And I'm going to take your limitations into account. If you are gold, if you don't play X hero, I'm not going to ask you for X hero. I'm not going to hold you to standards of a different league that you may not be in. So this week, I had a really, really bizarre experience twice in a row. We had a fill. It was just practice night, but we practiced 2 times this week. And we got a master, grandmaster, semi-pro player to come in and be our solo lane Monday night. And I was mad uncomfortable, man. It was really, really weird. Shot calling for someone who was better than me, but also was part of that semi-pro sphere where things don't really get explained. And it's not a bad thing. I don't assume that every grandmaster in the world wants to tell me why something is the way it is. There was a fascinating moment where we were thinking of putting coffee on Alarak. Alarak and coffee, you know, they mix great. They're great together.
Who doesn't want an Alarak in their coffee?
And it's, yeah, exactly. And so what I get is, no, Alarak is bad at macro, and it shuts down the draft. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I think he got put on Greymane, which Coffee doesn't play Greymane. He plays Greymane, but it's not to the level of the Alarak, right? So I had to like sit back and reanalyze that whole situation. And I realized, I'm like, macro, what's wrong with macro on Sky Temple? Alarak, Mac. The idea here being, and we're going to talk about this in strategy section deeper, but the idea being that Alarak doesn't do siege damage. He doesn't hold the point very well. He slowly dies on it because he can't regenerate his health and such. So Alarak is not a good high-level pick on Sky Temple. But I was working within the confines of my team. And there was all these weird sort of situations that kept happening throughout the night where I would make a call and there would be a counter call on the back end. And it was just really nerve-wracking. And the second night I did it again for another. This was a Grandmaster Vikings player who luckily was, for my own sanity, way too busy playing Vikings most of the time to actually have it on call.
I was about to say, I'm like, let me guess. I bet he was quieter.
Yeah, he was quieter. But still, it was a really odd experience. And I realized, too, because there were times in both those nights where I was like, I just want to learn. Like, I understand you know this game better than I do. Could you shot call? Like, can you, whatever role you want, you can do it from assassin. You could be the tank if you want. I would love to learn from this. And I get, nah, don't shot call. Like, well, you're shot calling in my draft. You're changing the plan. You're denying my rotations that I'm trying to make, but you're not willing to shot call. It's weird to me, but I get it. Like, it's a nerve-wracking process. You are exposing all of your game knowledge, all your execution, micromanaging other players while still trying to land a mosh pit. It's not easy, but it was fascinating. And I learned a little bit.
It lines up with a lot of my life experiences, even outside of video games.
Yeah.
It's some people, I don't know. It's easier to critique a single variable as opposed to having to drive like the entire vehicle.
Well, and a lot of, I often think of like things in terms of like character sheets. A lot of people who have amazing strength, dexterity, they don't go put points into teaching. They got intimidate. They put points into intimidate. They're going to, maybe like a point in diplomacy, but not really. They've done, it's all in intimidate. And they have no points in teaching. So when they say, oh, that's just bad macro, how could you call for that? You go, what is macro? You just said, no, the economy is bad. Well, what part? How? Why? What?
Excuse me, could you micro your statement, please?
Yes, could you please?
You're speaking in macro statements, and I'm sitting here. I'm sorry, I don't know the underpinnings.
I need to break this down to a further level
Yeah,
to understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, that kind of it can be a little irritating. I feel for you, man. You know, would you like to drive? Would you like to take over? Well, no, I don't. I don't know where we're going. I just know where that one very specific pothole is, and I would really like you to not drive over it.
I mean, to be fair, they said something. They said there's a pothole coming up. It wasn't just your mom going and grabbing the side of the bar thing. So I was actually able to analyze something useful.
I've so been guilty of doing that. And how many times have we been in drafts together, Kyle? And I've just gone like, I don't like this.
Yep.
Nothing constructive. Just like Han Solo stepping out of the Millennium Falcon going, I've got a bad feeling about this.
I had to learn the same thing when I was doing art lessons with our buddy Ben. Like, I don't like it. Well, what don't you like about it? The lighting is bad.
I'm going to assume this is you talking to, because I know Ben. I'm assuming this is you talking to Ben and not Ben talking to you.
Yeah. Like the grass is low fidelity. Is that the issue with the painting? Well, I'm trying to figure that out. I also made a shocking and horrifying discovery, Garrett.
What is that?
I got into a game last night, and my Ariel says, I'm not even going to play this game after seeing ETC's level 1 pick, which was actually like written like it was a full statement like that. It wasn't just like Zuz ETC's talent. Like it was a full description of why they were upset. And I got to be honest, I love auto attack ETC. You know, we learned about it with McIntyre here on the show. It was a very seductive presentation, and it's my favorite thing to do in ETC. And you get to, you get to auto attack, which I love. I'm auto attacking on Diablo too. So my tanks are auto attacking. Mal'Ganis auto attacks for some health. So I go Guitar Hero because it's a great level 1 talent. When Guitar Solo is active, heal for 60% of the damage dealt by basic attacks. Basic attacks increase the duration of Guitar Solo by 0.25. And then you put some hammer on that at 7, and now you're dealing increased attack damage, which equals more healing. That talent has a 5% pick rate. Apparently, I'm the only person on this damn planet that loves Guitar Hero.
It also has a poor win rate.
I know. And I don't know what the hell is happening there. People are so obsessed with prog rock. And I'm frankly blown away. It was a shock.
Yeah, Black Party also getting a very healthy pick rate. Video, I'll show you. So we're on Hot Slogs. We're looking at most recent, its last 2 patches. For heck, we can even narrow it further to the most recent patch 2.51.1. And yeah, look at this. We got a 61% popularity on Prog Rap, but a 33% on Block Party. So Guitar Hero is just ain't nobody wanting to take it. I think 500 of those 578 games played is you, Kyle.
It must be. I mean, if I sort by just Diamond here, not only do I see a greater disparity that even Diamonds love prog rock more, but we're now down to 157 games, which about half of those, maybe a third of those, is mine. So I'm keeping it alive, apparently, but I had no idea this was a perceived issue on my ETC. I've also run into lots of weird issues like just slide, because people are really used to solo ETCs just sliding everything under the sun, even if there's no damage in range, which drives me nuts because I'm like, if I want to go slide something, I want someone there who can kill. Don't just not sliding for free out here. I'm not showing off my sweet slide skills for nothing to come of it.
Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about here, dude, tying together the Oriole who had strong statements about your ETC pick and your Phil who had strong statements about an Alarak pick into a certain map. I mean, we're really just coming back around to that the reality of how you play this game. There's the idealistic Heroes of the Storm and there's the realistic Heroes of the Storm. And you and I constantly talk about this and the oscillation between the two, right? There's the what is perceived to be true because fans said it on his stream, or you watched a J Howe video.
But there's always a fan. Right. There's always a lighthouse. There's always a fan. Someone's going to be making the waters weird and repeating time.
This is not me coming down on fan, by the way. This is me coming down on people parroting fan without understanding why fan believes what fan believes. But there's a difference between that and like what the other players in the one specific game of Heroes of the Storm that you are in right now are capable of. Like, I don't, like, whatever statement it is, like, you know, we could use the Alarak as an example, and we could go even further. Let's like remove it from your team, from Coffee, who has other picks. What if it's an Alarak one trick and it's Sky Temple? What if that's like literally it? What do you do? What do you do in that scenario? I don't care how strongly you believe that an Alarak pick on Sky Temple is a loss. If there is a member of your team and that is all they play, you got to put them on Greymane? Really? They've never played Greymane. They have level 1 Greymane. They don't know what his abilities do, and they don't know how to pilot the hero. Like, that's a very extreme example, but like there's room in between there where you would say, all right, go with the pick. We'll go with the suboptimal pick because of your prowess on the hero.
It's fascinating, and we have so many returning high-level players. And what is a asking PSA? Like, I want to put out into the air. If everyone could just break it down an extra level, I think we'd be in a lot better space. I'm seeing again, we're entering that period of, oh well, players in Heroes of the Storm have bad game knowledge. They don't know how to play the game. And then you ask them a second time, and you get, well, they don't know how to macro, and you're like, one level deeper. Let's chip that down to the foundation and really see what you're talking about there. But otherwise, I'm having a grand time. I've climbed briskly now that I'm back on tank and support to Diamond 2 from being around like the Plat 1 area when we were figuring out a lot with the team. Team's still about 50-50 on wins, but solo queue is just going well, and I'm very pleased. I got Deckard's rocking it. And if I have to do any damage, I'm doing Raynor because, you know, it's old 2-button Terry, now 3-button Terry, but he's simple. And ain't nobody mad about Hyperion, which is nice.
So much more relaxing than trying to pilot drunk Misha.
And I don't want to maybe get one Cassia in every 20 games. And on the flip side, there's a extreme rarity that I'll enter a game with a tank main who's more aggressive about getting tanked than I am. And there's a support already on the team as well. And I go, okay, well, I guess I'm actually doing assassin here. Let me pick something really, really low burden of execution for myself here with Raynor.
I mean, that right there, dude, you hit on like how I would entice folks that are maybe a little tired of weird comps in a quick match. Like, I think gone are the days of having to worry about, do we have a tank, do we have a healer in draft for the most part.
That's true. I'm sure we're talking different leagues than some people see, but it is a rather universal thought process. I've got one more fascinating story for you, Garrett.
All right, hit me.
I was on the butthole wave. It was bizarre.
Would you say you were a butthole surfer?
It was a snowball of trolls, a troll ball. It was the weirdest night of Heroes I've ever had. Game one troll, we win. You know, they're typing a little bit. They're aggressive. They're very proud of themselves, and that's okay. Game 2, same troll, new troll shows up. Start arguing with the previous troll. Next game, same 2 people, new troll shows up. These 3 start arguing. And by game 4, I've got myself 4 people who I've slowly collected over the course of the night, all on the same team, all arguing with each other. And we won all the games.
Dude, you took me into Mordor and you brought me right back to the Shire. That was amazing.
It was weird. It was...
Oh, my God. Oh.
It was fascinating.
Wow. Oh,
I really experienced humanity this week.
All I want to do is just like bravo on your storytelling ability right there. You told that in the exact order it needed to be told in. Yeah, man. Those are becoming more common for me. The salt games that you're winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, dude, we try and figure it out every time. We don't know. It's all like we can try and sit here and like psychoanalyze what's the greater community of Heroes of the Storm as a whole. And I don't know. There does seem to be an ebb and flow of it. Like, there's still a lot of excitement around the game right now. There's a lot of pros returning to the game. Twitch numbers are up. I had the fastest Storm League queue I think I've ever experienced last night. We're talking sub 10 seconds. The game was just like, I know where to put you. There you go. Enjoy. And yet, clearly running into, returning or new players, but also impatient players that I usually feel I run into much later. The folks that are still here playing, but are maybe grumpy for some reason. In between major updates to the game. So I don't know, man. I don't know, but it's an online game. You got to be open for these kinds of things, and that's where I always lean. That's why you will always find me recoiling from blanket statements like, Alarax are terrible here. You can't take that level 1 on ETC. I'll always recoil from that because unless you're always playing in a 5 stack, what are you doing? I like you always say, Kyle, like, why would you sign up to play the game to not play the game? Well, that's part of playing the game of Heroes of the Storm, is being open to things not going according to plan and needing to pivot, right? Like, again, unless you're going in with 4 other people and you're all on exactly the same page, part of playing this game is working with what you got.
Rolling with the punches. Otherwise, frankly, I'd be bored. And I remember, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not a saint. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows I get salty. I get tilted. I see things that I don't like and I shut down. We are all guilty of it. But I think instead of putting out in the world, X is bad, should try and just stay mindful of, okay, well, it's one of those games. Let's pull it together. I say after last week where you and I did tiers, and I was just like, yeah, if you're ruining the game for 4 other people, I gave your hero an F.
There's nothing wrong with opinions. Bird of execution is such a beautiful phrase, meaning that some things are easier to do on other heroes. Like, all these things exist. The salt wall, as we talked about with AZ Jackson. Mm-hmm. We're slowly learning. I'm fascinated to know what future video game conversations will look like as we have slowly, feels like with Twitch, certainly, we've been able to expedite our understanding of language when it comes to executing something in video games.
Yeah, because when I think of a mastery of language, I think of twitch.tv.
Well, it spreads things, right? We were just accusing whoever the top streamer is of making a statement and trickling around real fast. Like, that's what's going on. Remember when everything was Gucci? Like, that was weird. I've never bought a Gucci item in my life. And I certainly wasn't prepared to call good things Gucci.
Obvi, Kyle.
I'm kind of concerned still that I'm making a mistake even saying it aloud. I don't know. I learned it from the internet.
Kyle, not Gucci Gang confirmed, says Muffin Pickle.
No, not part. There's a gang now, right?
Definitely not.
I'm learning.
Definitely, you're learning. You're learning good. We'll learn you real well, Kyle. Don't worry. We'll get you caught up.
Yeah, well, I'll run it down. No worries.
Go listen to some Post Malone, maybe some Youngblood. We'll get you caught up on all the slang.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, don't worry, man. We got you. But anyway, shall we get into this week's Heroes of the Storm news?
Yes.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
The moment is upon us.
Yes, I'd mana tap that.
The Heroes Hearts CCL is gearing up, dude.
Yeah.
So Grubby was on stream and read a statement from Heroes Hearth. I found out about this because Tim Rizzo from Inven Global tweeted about it. And it was a statement regarding Heroes Hearth's upcoming esports league for Heroes of the Storm. Tim Rizzo's tweet read that esports has returned to Blizz Heroes in the form of Heroes Hearth's league coming in the winter. Note, Blizzard is not associated in any way, which if you have been following Heroes Hearth, you're already aware of this fact, but we know quite a bit of what they are calling Season 1 now. Apparently, Kyle, we are now less than a week away from the full official announcement, according to both Grubby reading the statement on stream, but also follow-up tweets by the Heroes Hearth CCL account on Twitter. I already said tweets. I didn't need to specify Twitter. And
Use
yeah,
a different word though. That's good English. You did well. That's fine.
fair.
Yeah.
So the league's going to kick off in winter. We already knew this, I think, back in June. There was a tweet stating this, but we now know a lot more. It's going to run for 12 weeks. That's a lot of weeks of competitive heroes. It's going to feature NA players only, with the caveat of EU players may coming at a later date. All of this seems to be under the umbrella of how successful this first season is. Which makes a lot of sense. Here's the interesting thing, Kyle. It's going to have a live draft, which at first I thought nothing of. I'm like, why are they even pointing this out? Here's the storm. Of course it's going to have a draft. That's not what they mean. They're going to be drafting players for teams, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Because
which is a delightful event if you've ever gotten to watch any sort of, but sports do this, but I always loved when the rosters or the matchups were being decided in GSL.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Or I mean, we always had roster apocalypse in HGC at the end of every season, which wasn't quite the same. It's not like we were like tuning into the Blizz Heroes official Twitch channel. It's like, all right, and Cloud9 drafts the Burger. That's not how it happened, but that was usually the terms of contracts, and so you got a lot of players. But that's not how this is working. More like the NFL draft, it sounds like, because according to Heroes Hearth, they said there's going to be a free agent pool that orgs pull from, which sounds a whole lot like NFL draft, and that's about as much as I can tell you about it because I ain't never watched the NFL draft.
Man, people show up in nice cars, I guess. They make statements. There's those tiny pictures behind them on the walls, like they're going to some sort of gala event.
Yeah, but that's interesting. That's, it's not just pre-made teams showing up. And there's going to be 2 broadcasts each week, so 2 nights of competitive heroes for 12 weeks, and they're going to be best of 5 matches.
We also got a little more information from a just recently posted Invent Global article that mentioned that the players are going to be taken from Grandmaster and Master ranks. So there's some sort of rank requirement, and we'll have a large info dump in 5 days.
Did you watch the clip of Grubby reading this stuff?
I didn't. What happened?
Oh, it just made me giggle because someone was like, "What about diamond players?" And Grubby's like, "I don't see anything in here, but you're probably not good enough." It was just funny. It was just very matter of fact. Yeah, I mean
anybody. Yeah, there has to be a cutoff at some point.
It's hard not to look at this and be like, maybe this is part of the reason some pros are returning to the game. Well, on top of the fact that we got May.
And there's slow times. I've heard some weird things about things happening in other games right now that have brought people back, or they're frustrated with other metas. But a lot of it is just they want a comfort pick for the time in their lives, and they've decided to reinvest in heroes. But I mean, if we're going back to like HGC cancellation, right around that time, I remember Workhorse, who is heading, I'm not sure the official title, but heading a lot of this information, and him being like, I'm going to do something about it. And we're like, you go, Workhorse, you do it. You make the new HGC. And then all this Hero Start the Hearth stuff happened. I participated in the previous, community clash leagues. And this seems to be, we're finally reaching that climax with the streamers included in that previous event. They clearly showed their investors that there was enough popularity, enough interest for this to advance to some sort of semi-pro level for an extended period of time.
Doing a great job, Kyle. I'm sure you know more than you're letting on, and you're dancing around it.
I say nothing. I'm done.
You're done? That's the end? That's full stop for Kyle?
We've said everything that was officially released in other avenues, and I will not be the one to mess this up.
Okay, so at this point, can I start just yelling things at you and seeing if I got a facial reaction?
Okay.
Dunk Train will return as like the Goku of this entire system.
Oh, I have no idea. I would love that.
That's it. I got nothing. I was just trying to mess with you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got. But yeah, Tuesday next week, August 18th, at the time of recording this, is when the official announcement will happen. So I'm sure we'll have more to say on this next week, man. So there's no point in guessing what's going to be going down.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, before we go on, I do want to I want to take a second, man. Let's take a second and thank people who are helping and supporting the show over at patreon.com/ITN. Folks, if you like this show, if you like what Kyle and I are doing, if you want to support our coverage of Heroes of the Storm, check out patreon.com/ITN. You get all kinds of perks, things like ad-free version of the show when we have ads, signing up for our patron games, access to the Discord, all kinds of stuff. It's a great community over there, by the way, that Discord. So check it out, patreon.com/ITN. We really appreciate the support, everybody. And now we were both assuming, Kyle, that there would be a patch this week.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of the normal cadence of things. I'm just going to start saying the word and not cringing.
Well, yeah. We'll,
from this moment on.
Make it our own. Make it our own.
We're taking it back. But that did not happen. And there was a Reddit post today that wanted transparency on why there wasn't a patch this week. It was Redditor Jusmos added, quote, I would just like a blue post saying, hey guys, due to some unexpected bumps in the development, the patch might be a day or two late. And Daybringer responded in this thread saying, this is definitely one of the major reasons we hesitate to give dates. Since the AMA, we have had to shift a couple things around due to unforeseen issues. The bounce patch ended up getting pushed a week and is scheduled to hit next week now. I know it's disappointing, but keep in mind that we are doing our best to update the game as frequently as possible. And so that makes sense to me. This is kind of what I expected. And exactly what the original poster was asking for. So like, I stand by that. I think the Heroes team is more open with us than I am used to from game development. And
sure,
I personally don't need more. I don't need them to tell us like exactly what went wrong. Like, just let us know. Yeah, they hit a bump, and I feel like they've kind of already, warned us about this, that we might get a little bit more time in between updates.
It's an interesting problem of sorts because I feel like the meta is in a very healthy place. We're still instant banning Cassia a lot of the time. Tassadar still gets a lot of bans. But we clean those two up, and where do we end up? We end back in Greymane Town. We end up in banning all our tanks again. Like, there is a world where balance slows down. It is very exciting, and there's cool things that need help. Like, there was a blue post this week made by Blizz AC Jackson that Mephisto's level 20 talents are going to get a little love because they're a little weird right now. They don't match up with the way other level 20 talents tend to do the increase in CC sort of thing, which is great. I would love to revert a little bit of Johanna. I know I need to cool my jets out there, but getting away with Bull was the joy of Johanna. And that joy has left. Like, no one right now is suffering more from the recent update, and it was a great update because it had to happen because she was too universally good than Johanna to me. I've never before really realized that when you lose the shield, you lose unstoppable. And maybe it's just the current meta, the amount of damage we're able to draft and bring to these games. But that shield is gone. Unstoppable ends. And I feel like I always die with that exact 5 seconds on the timer when I should have that second pile of bull to get away with.
Fair, man. That's really actionable, right? Like I don't know whether you're right or wrong, whether the devs agree with you or not. Like that is an extremely specific. You've drilled down into what irks you about Johanna.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've gone out of my way to play a Johanna game that I can't really speak to it. And I wasn't maining her really ever. When she first came out, I played a lot of Johanna. You went on the Yorick and I went on Johanna. But it's basically been since then that I was like going out of my way to play her. Corny in the chat room wants to know, should the unstoppable be timed instead of when the shield dies?
That'd be interesting.
I mean, it's from your description, dude. It kind of sounds like that's how you expected it worked. Because if you're saying you didn't realize that it expired once the shield dies, then I mean, maybe you didn't realize this, but it sounds like you assumed it was already on a timer.
Right, I figured it lasts as long as the shield, and the shield just wasn't cracking, so I never had to really relive that. It's an interesting situation because when we increase the cooldown of the shield, Johanna, who is always, she's a bizarre hero, and that she has blind, which makes you think she's really good against just sustain, which she is. But the shield and unstoppable means you're amazing against mages. So now you're cracking the mages. And maybe we have to like revert. We're not playing Johanna correctly. It's probably the real thing is like, we need to revert back to Johanna being a counter with blinds, thinking of her more in that way rather than this universally good tank. The way that butts heads, though, is without getting away with all the random stuff and being aggressive, Johanna just doesn't get anything done that's clear. Because Johanna being in there for 20 seconds straight because 2 shields, one on each side, means Johanna's attached. She's doing her minuscule damage, which builds over time. Instead, what we probably have to do is like, get a quick pick. Okay, I'm unstoppable. Go. It's more like a Garrett situation where he uses his unstoppable, gets a pick, and then runs away. And we probably have to adapt Johanna into that. Problem is we have to get all the way to Blessed Shield for that to function. And fascinatingly enough, Hold Your Ground, the most popular talent pick at level 1, is now down in the win rate at 48% below the others, which means Reinforce is now better than that with a 6% pick rate. But that informs me that Johanna is doing well when she's countering sustain, like Laws of Hope, which also has a better win rate. So Johanna's morphed. And we all need to adapt, and I'm curious to see what happens this next bounce patch.
Gotcha. So is Johanna like top of your list? Like need some love?
Ooh, top of the list needs love. That's an interesting idea.
I'm not trying to get too crazy, man. I'm like,
okay.
If your brain is in the meta and the game you're playing right now and not like where your heart lies, because I'm still going to just keep beating the Arthas drum.
Okay.
Like,
because I honestly think Nazebo probably is needed the most love.
Dude, actually, you know what? Yeah, I might give him the tie with the Lich King.
Because it's tough. All our games go to 20 in a sense, but it's weird. We are in a double soak meta, but it's bruiser related. So Nazebo isn't pulling that off.
Yeah.
And that's how he gets his stacks, which means he has an impact at 20. Otherwise, his damage is too unaimed and too random. I really do think getting rid of Vile Infection at 20 and working that power pipe back into his overall kit would be a really good place to start. That gamble is just too strong.
The gamble of a rework that gets rid of Vile Infection?
No, getting all the way to level 20 with Vile Infection
gotcha. I was about to say.
And not like, losing along the way.
Because the gamble of like, is it successful, is it not? That is at the heart of how reworks in this game even work.
Yeah.
Like, you know, look at Cassia, look at Tracer, look at Tassadar. You know, some launched strong and had to be reeled in, some launched weak and had to be pumped up. And that's just kind of how these things go. But you know, the reworks really seem to live or die on it. Like if the team has a vision for how they want to, you know, break the clay down and remold it.
That's a good point. I'm still shocked that Illidan was inspired by the Hobbit Legolas. It still kind of bugs me. Like long ago.
It bugs me that movie even exists. So I agree.
Like something about, and I believe he targeted the river scene and was like, remember when Legolas was like jumping on barrels and like running around and you're like, I don't want to remember. How did this happen? Illidan in his current form is great. I think he's fabulous. And actually, I don't mind Illidan's on my team too much because we're in this sort of bruisery, soakery meta. And I think he can participate in so many ways. But it still kind of weirds me out to think about the Hobbit.
It's a weird thing to be inspired by. Because I felt a lot of things after watching the Hobbit films. Inspired is not one of them.
No. Oh, man. Lord of the Rings is so inspiring, too. Man.
Yeah, we've been talking about rewatching that with our friends Ben and Abby.
That's it. It's a good go. I mean, you know, it gets long, but man, that startup is just classic. And now like people are saying like Doom could be the next like Lord of the Rings and become a cultural phenomenon. I don't know, man. Doom's pretty weird.
Dune is pretty weird, but it's been a while, man. It's been a while.
As long as there's no inner monologue. That was dumb in Dark Crystal, and I don't know.
Yeah, I know nothing about Dune. We'll have to talk about this on Weak Sauce, which we're finally doing one. So look out for new Weak Sauce patrons on Monday.
Yes, let's move on.
Should be up on Tuesday. Yeah. So I think I just gotta assume they're gonna tweak Cassie a bit. Although, like, okay, dude, you mentioned Cassia. How do you feel about her? Because honestly, her win rate has, as far as I'm concerned, as someone who like lives and dies on stats, like she's right above Raynor now. Like, she's not actually running away with it like she was before.
It's not crazy. The weird thing about Cassie right now is that it's still the same build. So I do wonder if a lot of people brought her win rate down by going, oh, okay, so we nerfed the sort of auto attack through line that we were doing. Let's try the other stuff. It just doesn't have the throughput. And the throughput's really, really easy to get with charge strikes, which I still miss the old version of, but you know, things had to move on in advance. So right now it's charge strikes, play to the wheel, which is deceptively amazing and a lot of regeneration for you, even compared to things like Ring of the Lich, which feel more impactful in the moment. Play to the wheel keeps you going, keeps you active with that armor. Surge of Light, Ball of Lightning for the most part, Gloves of Alacrity that give you the bonus range, and then into Martial Law, which with this build, you're very reliant on your own team to supply the stun, slows, roots, but since it's baseline 1% on all basic attacks anyway, it's not as required anymore. There is a lot of tilt if you don't do that build on Cassie, which is perfectly fair because it's what's getting the numbers done right now. So I would like to see, honestly, I think you can take off this every third basic attack deals 20% bonus damage and bounces to nearby enemy heroes. I think we can remove the bonus damage and keep the bounce. That bonus damage is the weird one to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, because like I don't have a obvious candidate for nerfing, which probably speaks to your comment right at the top of this conversation, which is, I think I agree with you that I think the meta's in a pretty healthy spot. So I think that's why you and I are both kind of leaning towards, well, what needs some help as opposed to what doesn't need help.
For my own participation with my team, I would love for Maze bugs to be cleaned up. They don't affect me. I really don't care in my own solo queue games. I'm not going to abuse the avalanche bugs in order to push people outside the map or what have you, or kill them while they're invincible. And I'm just wanting to disengage a bloodlust or something along those lines. But avalanche still isn't allowed in organized play, so I'm not going to practice her, which is a new problem to have. But it means I'm not getting to enjoy this new hero, which I was all gung-ho about.
Well, and it's not even as selfish as like you and your game specifically, right? Like we're about to have another community league, and it sounds like one with some, noteworthy production behind it. So
we got to clean her up so she can participate. And that may be the unforeseen circumstances that they're talking about. They just want to get those bugs done instead of waiting for the next cycle, since that is affecting May's display in organized play.
I'm really curious if we're going to start noticing a trend in balance of the game leaning more towards organized play.
Oh, that'd be interesting. I would say we'll know the second Zeratul gets changed.
I don't disagree with that. And I don't think it's a bad thing. So
no, there's going to be things on display. Like it in that blue post I talked about with Mephisto, it takes a Mephisto player, because AZ's not going to play everything. The whole team doesn't play everything all the time. It takes a Mephisto player to be like, hey, it's kind of frustrating that the Durance of Hate silences for 2 seconds after the root expires, meaning that they could all hit cleanses and do weird stuff while they were rooted at level 20. Why not make it silence during and then silence after? That would be more effective. That would be a greater level 20 that I'd be more interested in. I'm kind of heading over here to do a little investigation on Heroes patch notes, but I'm curious to look at Zeratul. He got that level 20 upgrade this year, but I just want to see how actually 19 was a busy year for Zeratul. Okay. All right. So it wasn't actually that that bad. Oh yeah, yeah. HGC really had its way with Zeratul. Holy moly. Wow, yeah, there's a lot of bug fixes.
And it was Zeratul and it was Tassadar.
Yeah, that's the shield thing going on. I'm really curious. What I think the CCL could bring to the game is the off tanks. You know, we hear about Uther, we hear about Zool. Thrall off tank can happen. People are flirting around with Blaze a little bit, but he still has directional issues, and I love him solo lane alongside like that Johanna to set things up for him. I think he's an amazing off tank and can bring a lot of damage if he gets the spec for that, rather than having to do, you know, new habits and focus entirely on surviving and doing his tank thing himself.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to see what happens. Like, I would assume it would just come down to, you know, passion and how much of the community is engaged with organized play, and it's like you gotta assume that the team, you know, watches a decent amount of this, and you know if they get bought in and we get bought in, I think we will start seeing some moves made in the game in favor of organized play again. So it's kind of curious. Just got me thinking about it with another league on the way.
Oh yeah, how could it not enter their minds and them not respond to new information that's being executed in a very different way than the majority of people get to play?
Yeah. So anyways, let's move into this week's strategy segment, Kyle, and get back to what you hinted at the top of the show, which is kind of this macro versus team fight / micro line of thinking.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? Ah, that seems generous.
I have a PhD in PvP.
So, yeah, man, you were talking about this specifically, you know, the example of Alarak on Sky Temple.
Yeah, it got me thinking. It got me thinking about macro, what it means. Micro, what does that mean? As well as the videos you can find over on youtube.com/heroesheart that I've been doing on the subject recently. So when I say macro, I'm talking about objectives, camps, economy, everything you're doing on the map that is managing it in a way that equals a victory. On the micro side of things, it's control of a character, and we can call the team fights across the board of the team a micro fight because everybody is using their abilities to kill the enemy team, which will lead to a macro moment when they then choose to do what they do with that time. And by the way, what you should do with that time is destroy buildings. That's the fact of it right now. A Merc camp is an investment in later building destruction, which doesn't always come true. So if you say, we won, we killed everybody, they're dead for 30 seconds, go take the keep. Don't go take the boss that might take the keep because it's not guaranteed to.
Gotcha. So like we're pretty familiar with the idea of macro versus micro in terms of like controlling your hero and what you go do on the map, right? But you're talking very much like kind of about comps as a whole. Like, does this comp excel at the macro of the battleground you're about to enter, or are you just a team fight comp? Because that's like at a very base level, your two options. Did you draft to win the map? And if not, you better be able to win the team fight.
It's like the T-Rex seesaw. Is he a scavenger or a proud hunter? And that's what I'm having to now as the shot caller and draft organizer. I have a notebook and I write down what the enemy team plays ahead of time. So I make calls in the draft about what's going to be banned and what we're picking. But something I wasn't thinking about was what sort of team both sides had. So let's say you're going to Garden of Terror and you get that Greymane and your brain goes, oh, great, we have Greymane. Well, let's go crazy. We have Greymane and Sonya. So many camp. We have Greymane, Sonya, Rhaegar. Wow. We're going to take every camp all the time on Garden of Terror. And let's say they do Garrosh Kel'Thuzad on the enemy team. And we're all sitting around being like, they messed up the draft. They suck. They're never going to take a camp in their lives. They'll never be able to macro this game. They're now the scavenger. They're scavenger T-Rex. So it comes upon the Raptors who are doing all the hard work, scares them off and takes the kill. They are going to invade you during your camp and try to kill you and then get your camp that way. Or they might try to do a camp and sort of, do it really slowly and it's not very good. And that's them playing their comp wrong in that sense. So nowhere is this more highlighted than Battlefield of Eternity. But before I go there, I just want to check in. Making sense. identifying what your team is good at.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Cool.
And this is a cool way to look at it, because usually we're like, count your stuns. What damage types do you have? And it gets very nitty gritty very fast. This is a much broader construct.
Right. Like, oh no, we took double poison. Our fights are going to be long, but they took double support. Like that sort of weird nuanced stuff is hard to know before the first battle. Sometimes you don't know if you have Ariel Kharazim and it's Assassin Kharazim. So, well, thank goodness we have an Ariel. Or if you have healer Kharazim, so both kind of have to make up for their own damage. That's the unknowns. We don't know when we're looking at a team comp. But let's use the extreme example of Battlefield of Eternity, where you have burn or you don't. And sometimes we're all laughing in the draft because we're like, we got Hanzo, Vala. We're going to kick butt on this race. No way they can beat us. So what do? They defend. The entire enemy team of like a Nubarak and Thrall and Alarak come running in there, and you're like, what are you guys doing here? We're burning. You should be burning yours, and we should be winning. And identifying that moment and knowing what's going to happen because of what the enemy team wants, because what they're built for, is a skill I'm learning right now. And that really breaks down great with the Raynor conversation. Because when you go and look at Raynor's pick rate on Battlefield of Eternity, it's outrageous. Like Exterminator, it's all right. It's all right. I'm not here to hate on Exterminator by any means. But what's interesting is that I think outside of our leagues, for you and me, Garrett, we don't really see this extreme attention to Raynor on Battlefield of Eternity. Which, when I go over the maps here, I mean, we're looking at double picked on any other map. He is so universally good. He's good everywhere. But people are taking him in droves on Battlefield of Eternity because of that. I always want to say Executioner, Exterminator. So Exterminator deals basic attack damage, 50% more damage to minions, mercenaries, and monsters, which the Immortal on Battlefield of Eternity is a monster. This increases to 125% while Inspire's active. So wait,
same reason why like 2 years ago, I think we did an expose on Monster Hunter Vala on Battlefield of Eternity only.
Yeah, it's really good. And it does have the higher win rate right now. This is a choice you could make for yourself in that situation, not just looking at your full team comp. You can say here, are we Raynor, Greymane versus Vala Hanzo? That's an Exterminator pick. That's you acknowledging macro versus macro team. All right, let's try to outrace them. Otherwise, if you have that Garrosh, Kel'Thuzad, what have you on the enemy side, they're looking to invade. And you're going to win the Immortal when that team stops invading, when they're dead. An Ace in the Hole or even Veteran Marksman is going to serve you way, 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 way better. So we can make those choices by noticing what the enemy team can do and what they should be doing based on their comp, not just what people do on the map.
Gotcha. Okay. So anywhere else, are there any other examples here of like what we're talking about besides Raynor and Exterminator specifically? Because yeah, you're right. You can go to any stats website and the Exterminator pick is just going to skyrocket if it's Battlefield of Eternity.
Right, and it's such a great example because we're not talking about a different hero doing it better. We're not saying Raynor on Garden of Terror taking Exterminator for camps. I say that's silly because you could do that with Blaze right now. Blaze is amazing. You need a range assassin in that role, maybe we do it on Greymane instead. Like Monster Hunter Vala, there are people who do it faster and safer than Raynor will. What you need to acknowledge, though, is what sort of team you have. And in that Alarak Sky Temple situation, if we had already picked the Alarak, we would have had to make the choice to become the Hunters. We would not try to take pads. We would overall change our aggression to be less macro-oriented and more kill everybody micro-oriented. So what can you do on your own characters out there, whatever your main is, whatever you're running, to change how you play based on your team? That's not just sustain, burst, healing structure type of tank you have. And it'll open your eyes to some really cool ideas.
what I'm curious about, and this is in the process of talking to you. So if you don't have an answer, I understand. But at like where, I feel like there's a gray area in here. There's got to be like, because I love Sonya on Sky Temple. If we're talking Sky Temple was one of the big maps in question that sparked this entire conversation in your head. Great at standing on the pad. Can fight the Temple Guardians for days. But if someone shows up, I'm at a disadvantage even with just one enemy hero showing up. Because the Temple Guardians are attacking me, not them. 2 people shows up, I got to get the hell out of town. So at what point because I don't know, I the way this is framed, it feels like we're saying draft for macro, otherwise you better win the team fight. But like, when do you decide, no, I'd just rather draft for the team fight?
If we're talking in solo queue, I think, and even in organized play where maybe you pre-picked things that aren't working out at this point, you make that acknowledgement as you go. So, for Sonya here, again, I'm not a main Sonya by any means, so I don't know what sort of sacrilege I might suggest by messing with level 1 talents. But Warpaint, if your entire team is going to be macro oriented, this would be economy based, holding the pads for extreme amount of times. We got Sonya, we got Muradin. Everyone just wants to sit on the pad and be healthy about it. Then Warpaint would encourage that particular build and allow you to do that exact job that your team is built for. But you may want to do something like Furious Blows or Tough as Nails if you found yourself on more of a team with that Alarak, with that Kel'Thuzad that needs to get picks first and then divide and conquer.
That's a good little way to do it. Sonya has pretty good talent diversity. There's a lot of love for her Tough as Nails right now, though, out there. Like, a lot of people, I've seen so many people, you included, like recently, just being like, man, Sonya's block talent, it's just so good. Which it is.
It's so stupid good.
Yeah. But yeah, Warpaint is great. I miss taking, I pretty much just take Tough as Nails like all the time, because I feel like no matter what happens, we're always eventually making a call of like, all right, we gotta go fight everybody. Let's go. But
yeah, and I think too, block talents, and I would say this as well for block party, have kind of a religious, a feel good moment, because the chance. We don't like our RNG in gaming, but sometimes we note and we take it to extreme to heart that auto attack went woo, flew through the air at you, and you heard that wing of the block, and you knew that just saved your life.
And then finally,
and
Kyle, if Battlefield of Eternity is like the best example of where this thought process is important, what is the battleground that's like the worst example where it kind of doesn't matter?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Well, because I think of things like Volskaya or Garden of Terror, where the objective is essentially a team fight. Sky Temple, you're gonna split. Towers of Doom, you're gonna split. Dragonshire, you're always split. So those are important to think about this. But what about everyone to the 1 point?
Yeah, man, I think someone who's watched more games than played games is probably better at making that call. My brain goes to Cursed Hollow first, because it's so team fight oriented. It can be so long-winded or so bursty. Like, that's one where you're really basing your engaged structure off of the type of team you have, and all your macros taken care of by the objective. You make choices. Like, I love the choice when you go for a keep before the fort, because by clearing up to the keep, you're going to destroy all the minions that would defend the fort in the first place, so the fort's just going to die, and all the buildings are off anyway, so let's get crazy on the keep range. Those are macro choices that are being made, but we got there by team fighting the whole time. Dragonshire is one where absolutely you can macro, in a sense, by Muradin level 10 Trumfadoring for Kalimdor, and stand on the thing and just be like, it's mine. Don't take it from me. It's mine forever.
Gotcha. Okay. That's just where my mind was starting to wander. Is that like, I don't really consider certain heroes like good at like Volskaya's objective.
That's fair. Volskaya, have I talked about rotations on Volskaya? That's a really, really interesting one.
I think we've touched on it in the past because we've talked about like the importance of turret camp and stuff like that.
Yeah, that choice for camp order was something that really interested me when I started chat calling. And it's got a very obvious answer on Sky Temple and Hanamura. You do the turret camp first. So if anything goes wrong when you're doing either the support camp, heal camp, top, middle, Volskaya, or the samurai camp, you have a gun to drop down. So you can have a 5.5 versus 5 fight, right? We don't do that on Hanamura because it feels so good to just know that everybody here wants to get a samurai. We all go, oh, thank goodness everyone knows we should get a samurai. Let's go get a samurai. But on Volskaya, you can absolutely make that 1 minute turret camp, do your assault camp, and make your way over to the support camp. I like to do the assault camp later, so it goes in lane later and does that whole like push during the objective thing. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right.
So some of these things you can break down to logical sense. Some of them are just spam, like Towers of Doom. Just take it all the time. Cooldown, all-track pass has almost zero creativity in how you're going to interact with that Knoll camp. You just take it at 1 minute, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, because it's XP.
Yep. All right. Well done, man. This has been cool. I'm glad you took something that challenged you and turned it into something you could learn from.
Yeah, I'm a curious man. I like to know things.
Yeah. Well, Brad, let's take a few questions before we wrap this episode up.
Darkness stopped calling.
Does anyone else hear that buzzing?
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. If you're a patron, you can drop us a question right there in the patron Discord. We also got a tweet. Like, folks almost never tweet us questions, but so this really stuck out to me, Kyle. So at Torian90 wants to know, at ITNcast, what are the chances they'll give Probius a way to target heroes with his cannons, similar to Jaina Elemental?
Ooh. My first thought is a real bummer of one that I quit playing Gazlo when they gave me that ability.
Oh, to target his turrets?
Yeah, it was just like, I'm not here for that. What are you...
I just want to set up zones and
Gazlo?
forget and move on with my life. I don't want to micro these things.
Right. It's like if Junkrat got his moving little traps chattering along the ground and you suddenly had to pilot them yourself. I'm just not interested. But I think the traps setting up in zones are really cool.
I haven't played Gazlo much since they gave him that ability as well, man. I used to really like Gazlo.
It's interesting that, that was such a turnoff. I think about card games a lot when it comes in terms of like value, because it's turn-based. You can think about these numbers very clearly about what you should be doing. And Gazlo turret targeting was just a step too far. I'm managing a melee hero, one with, at the time, before I think Robo-Goblin rework, didn't have movement speed.
Mm-hmm.
So one with no escape, one that has to position, get to the objective early. I don't want to hit your buttons. I'm out. I've got other things to play.
You want to drop things and micro.
Yeah.
Not micro the things you dropped.
But Probius is so buzzy and busy and keeping around that I'd be for it. We don't have anything on the tray. Oh, we have a pylon. We do Disruption Pulse Q, Warp Rift W, Photon Cannon E, and then we drop a pylon on trait.
Yeah.
So this would be more of like a Zool one button.
Yeah, which isn't insane. But man, if like...
What's Gaslo's target? Does he hit a one button or does he trait to target?
I don't remember. It's been so long since I played him, man. I'm sure chat will get there faster than I will. It's a number 1, according to Corny in the chat room.
Okay. Which isn't, the cleanest thing in the game. Because Zool could also have it on his trait, but
that's right. His trait is Salvager. His trait destroys the turret.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that button is busy, so we had to put it on 1. But yeah. Zool is an example of when we could have it on D, but it's not for some reason.
I mean, but if... no skin in this game. So I'm just trying to keep you honest, Kyle. If in your mind, Gazlo is too busy to want to, micro the turrets, trying to drop W's and pass Q's through it, like threading the needle as quickly as Probius needs to me sounds infinitely worse than how busy I am with Gazlo's Q, W, and E.
You know what? It's because Probius isn't auto-attacking a lot of the time. That auto-attack is baby damage, and it's simply not worth the danger of doing it in the first place.
Ooh, that's a great retort. I don't have a way to argue back at that.
So we call it Flare Mark Disruptors, and Probius's auto-attack puts a shiny little beacon on an enemy hero that causes photon cannons to target them.
Could it stay on them until you retarget a different target?
That'd be cool. Kind of an Alarak Marky situation.
Yeah, or maybe you have to double tap it. Maybe like the first tap, if you're hovering over something that sets a target, you tap it again, it deselects it, and they just start going back to the way they used to function.
That'd be interesting. I mean, there's all sorts of augments you can do.
Yeah, I'd like to wipe it for incoming waves, but I kind of like the idea of like you landing against someone, just like put it on them, and then, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it's
the
not
photon barrier or the photon cannon is farting off. It's attacking whatever's in range, and you advance, putting yourself into danger in slide territory, and put a mark on the enemy that causes your photon cannons to be mad about it. Aren't photon cannons floating around now in StarCraft anyway? Like they move across the ground and weird stuff like that. They like drift.
Do they?
Or is that only a thing in the campaign?
I think that's a thing in the campaign. Chat room can correct me.
Because it was silly. It looked real silly. But
I've watched almost no StarCraft this year. I watched a ton of it last year, though, and I do not remember cannons moving.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, this year I have watched some beautiful cannon cheese. And they did not move.
There's been a lot of YouTube videos about StarCraft esports and all that, too. I wonder what they're gearing up for.
I think last season, DRG did really well. You should probably give it a look.
I do like my Zerg.
And it's all free on YouTube now. They're not doing that GOM TV thing anymore. Chat room has no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, I'm talking about, okay.
I'm fairly certain that was campaign only.
Yeah, okay.
I think this is whatever. Heroes of the Storm Show, not StarCraft, but I'm fairly certain at one point I remember a StarCraft dev saying that in the early days of like Wings of Liberty development, you could move cannons, but they decided against it.
I mean, it looks bizarre, but one cute thing for Probius to have little floating cannons moving around.
I mean, in Heroes of the Storm, it could work. Like, I think it potentially could. But, and I'm with you, man. After you mentioned the auto attack, okay, never mind. You sold me. Let's give Probius the ability to target where his cannons go.
And even Gazlo has a quest. I'm gonna double check here. He is able to increase the duration of his cannons or his turrets by auto attacking. I don't know if that is a cap or if I could just wail on one thing forever. That'd be a cool thing for Probius to have, because we all want permanent cannons. I understand why you don't want to give them to me, because that gets into weird territories. Let's see.
It's Clockwork Steam Fists, and it basic attacks increase the duration by 1.5 seconds. After increasing the turret duration by 600 total seconds, you reduce the charge cooldown of rocket turret by 3 seconds. And so you could just keep it going if you smacked on something long enough.
Sweet. Let's make auto attack Probius, which is actually a turret build, a thing.
You just okay. You know what? Sure, why not?
I know I'm nuts about auto attacks, if that's what you were about to say. Just Kyle's over here with his free.
I was going to say I think we're getting too similar to Gazlo here, but you know what? Whatever. Sure.
True.
Probius is such a niche hero. Let's do it. Are you ready for the final email, which is from a writer named Sex Panther?
Sure. Why not?
Been listening to the show for about 3 years now. My Friday commute home is the best part of my week. Oh, thanks, Sex Panther.
That might not be us. Yeah. That's a Friday commute home, It's pretty good anyway. I'm glad we could be a part of your already great commute, though.
Yes. And now this writer is realizing that we are not actually the reason they are so excited on their way home on Friday.
They stop by Moe's and they like have it's a beautiful display.
Yep.
Driving home.
They continue. My question involves the varying levels of MMR that an account has. As you can see in the attached screenshot, which was of their hero's profile, account. Mine is showing as Masters and Quick Match, then a mixture of Plat and Diamond in the others. The one that really interests me is Storm League, where it has me at Diamond 3 despite me being stuck in mid-Plat for the last 2 years. Could you provide some insight into how this works, or does it have a does having a Masters and Quick Match mean I'm matched against similar caliber players in that mode? Okay. All right, Panther. So first off, big hole asterisk. I have nothing to do with Hero's Profile whatsoever. I do, however, have quite a lot to do with hot slogs. But so I can't speak to the screenshot that you sent. But any fan site, they don't have access to Blizzard's MMR system, so it's not accurate. It's never going to be accurate with what's going on in Heroes of the Storm. On top of the fact that Heroes of the Storm's MMR is obscured, we can't see it. But I can tell you how Hotslogs does it. We use an open source third-party algorithm. It is called TrueSkill. I've even included a link in the show notes to the GitHub for it. It's under Moserware/skills on GitHub. And basically the way it works is that when a new player is added, it gets some initial MMR value with like a big uncertainty value. So you're going to swing more in either direction depending on your wins or losses. It basically puts you at mid-gold. 1,700 is where it starts. And then the more games you play, or more specifically that you play and are uploaded to Hotslogs, which is why it's very important that as many of you as possible upload your games to Hotslogs, because it makes it more accurate. The more certain the algorithm becomes of your MMR, and the point swings are going to narrow. It's also taking into account like the MMR of the players that you're playing against and are on your team. So, but in terms of a discrepancy between what's in like Hotslogs or Heroes Profile is showing you and what is in the game of Heroes of the Storm, it's that there's no correlation whatsoever. It's an assumed value. It is not a true value because we have no access to HOTS's MMR system.
Which we know is still like it probably has a lot to do with that same discussion about can we get a custom game mode and the sort of servers and what's allowed and the data sharing and all these modern crazy issues we find ourselves with in our modern times. But in the past, I know there was also a feature where whenever a soft reset would happen in the game, Hotslogs, and I believe Heroes Profile as well, would give you a soft reset of sorts. If you've been playing a lot, this is basically an MMR dropdown, and then you would sort of regain that MMR again with slight more uncertainty. So you'll see if you look up your MMR over time, at the season change, there's a pretty distinct big drop. And that's it resetting that uncertainty for you to try to match the uncertainty that Blizzard does on its end in order to maintain accuracy with what it thinks Blizzard is doing. So at this point, after so many years, we're also very much removed from the days of what Blizzard may have done at this point, because we've continued on that system.
Yes.
Yes, maybe, right. This is all guesswork, but it's interesting, and I certainly wouldn't take it. Like we just signed up for NGS, and we had to supply a screenshot of our profile lifetime this season, last season, and 2 seasons ago, and that's how they're going to do the placement for that. So these numbers, even though they can show up as links from Heroes Lounge, and you click someone's name and it takes you to Heroes Profile, they're not using that information exclusively to place you. And organizations aren't using that ratings MMR because we don't know how accurate it is. I am Diamond 2 at the moment in game, and I'm Diamond now, but sometimes I'm Plat. I'm Silver in Hero League, but you know that's some old information, and I don't know. That could honestly, I might be Silver in Hero League, because Hero League doesn't exist anymore, and every time there's a season roll, it knocks me down again, and of course I can't play in that mode anymore. So who knows what's going on there?
Yeah, I'm in Hotslogs Diamond across the board, except for unranked draft where I am Master, apparently.
Congratulations!
Like,
damn.
We have had some very good Patreon nights, which is played exclusively in unranked draft, so... Which makes sense, because we're probably going up against other pre-mades, and the last like 3 months, man, I think every patron night has ended significantly in the green.
we rock that unranked, and we fight a lot of practicing NGS teams and such. This last time we fought Mr. X himself and had to feel the sting.
I wasn't in that game. I probably wouldn't still be so high ranked if I was.
Oh my god, dude! So AZ he put his he was Junkrat and I was ETC, and he would stand on top of his own traps, but slightly down from them, so his whole body would block the trap. Like not on top of them like Murky does, so you can't target them because you're trying to target the pufferfish. Like AZ would actually like use the angle of the sun camera to block the trap that was under his feet the whole time. It was murderous. It was awful. I gave him a solo mosh pit for his trouble.
AZ
just so we could kill him once.
AZ is a beast.
Yes, he is. He's earned that Grandmaster season after season.
Absolute beast. So anyway, hopefully that clears it up for you, Panther. Keep the emails coming, everybody. itncast@gmail.com. And please, 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 everybody within the sound of my voice, go to hotslogs.com and install the uploader and upload your replays. Help our stats.
Help our accuracy. Particularly if you pick level 1 talons on ETC.
Oh, okay. No. That is unethical.
We got to get that pick rate up.
That's illegal, Kyle. That is unethical.
Is it?
No.
Is it unethical? Everyone else is in there.
It's ethically gray. It's ethically gray if you are saying, I would specifically prefer you to upload if you take this talent that will help my argument.
Maybe you fought an ETC on the enemy side, right?
It would be more unethical if you said, please don't upload if you take any other talent, but it's still a little gray.
I'm also not suggesting you go through and delete your replays that don't match my desires, because running the uploader is just going to grab them all. All I'm saying is that talent is really good, and somebody out there is rocking it, can increase this win rate, and they're not uploading, and they should.
So go to hotslogs.com, everybody.
Hotslogs.com,
check it out. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you again to our patrons for the support. If you want to support what we're doing here on Into the Nexus, check out patreon.com/ITN. It is an opt-in subscription. Whatever works for you helps the show, and we really appreciate it. And huge thanks to our producers, by the way, Declan H, Cheesy Bob, Chris K, and Mike C. Thank you so much. There is, by the way, the first producer slot open in a very long time. So if you want to become a producer of Into the Nexus, check out patreon.com/ITN. Other than that, we can be found on Twitter at ITNcast. You can join us live Thursdays over at twitch.tv/AMoveTV, and the whole back catalog of episodes can be found at amove.tv or the full-length uncut VODs at youtube.com/amove2, numerical number 2. Kyle, before we go, though, man, you do all sorts of awesome stuff. If people want to check out your new Rainer video, building a palm, what you talked about here today, catch a stream, just taking more of you, fine sir, where can they find you?
You can find me over at kylefergusson.com, 2 S's in Fergusson, which will link to everything I do, D&D shows, hero shows, and of course, head over to that youtube.com/heroeshearth. Give them a subscribe and whatnot to check out those Learn to Play videos. And you can find me at youtube.com/KyleFergusson, posting my own gameplay videos, twitch.tv/KyleFergusson. It wasn't creative, but it's my name, and I stuck with it.
I mean, at least you don't have your real name as your battle tag. I mean, what kind of deluded narcissist would do that?
Just a strange person out there.
I can't think of any weirdo that would have their real name as their battle tag.
You didn't put your last name in there, so that's
I think it's too many characters, like legitimately. I have a long last name. Yeah. Anyways, I can be found at Garrett Art. Garrett on BattleNet. Might be me if you see a Garrett. And everything else is at amove.tv. This show included. Just did a brand new Angry Chicken last night. If you want to hear Jocelyn and I talk about our experience in the post-Scholomance meta, we're both really enjoying it, as a matter of fact. Also, it sure is looking like a battle pass is coming to Hearthstone, and we spent a good amount of time talking about that as well. So if that sounds interesting to you, go find the Angry Chicken Hearthstone podcast. Wherever it is, you find your podcast. And that's going to do it. It's going to bring us to the end of this episode. We'll see you next week. And we're going to have a patch to talk about, Kyle.
Yes.
If it gets pushed to Friday, we may have to stretch. We may have to hit the pause button, but we'll do what we can. But until then, everybody.
For Sex Panther, it'll be ready by 5 p.m.
What? Oh, for the drive home.
You got to drive home.
You got to drive
home, Garrett.
It took me a second. Yeah. So we'll see you next week. But until then, everybody, good luck and have fun.
Take care.
Have a great drive home, Sex Panther.